Barrens of the Barrens region. I'm pleased to welcome you to this Transport Ministerial Meeting under the Norwegian Barents Euro-Arctic Chairmanship. Unfortunately, the Minister could not attend today because we have a new government in Norway that is being announced this moment. We would have liked to welcome you all to Norway, but we are grateful to meet in a digital format to talk about transport cooperation in the Barents region. Since the pandemic struck in March last year, we have been faced with a wide range of new challenges: closed borders, interrupted projects, plans put on hold, and conversations suddenly shifted to an online platform. All of these posed obstacles to a cooperation built on people-to-people contact. However, thanks to the positive attitude of the members at both national and regional level, the Barents Euro-Arctic Council has managed to stay focused, active and committed. Together with the Regional Council Chair Västerbotten and the other members, Norway has implemented an administrative reform of the working structure under the two councils. We believe this new reform and the new Barents financial mechanism will strengthen and enhance the value of the Barents cooperation. People-to-people contact and youth have been some of the priorities of Norway's chairmanship in the Barents Euro-Arctic Council under the slogan, "A strong and resilient Barents region." In our conversations with people living in northern communities, transport and communication is always underlined as a key factor for sustainable development and growth. This is why infrastructure at land and at sea, as well as digital infrastructure, were amongst the most crucial topics in Norway's white paper on the Arctic that was adopted by our parliament earlier this year. Norway is now preparing for the 18th Ministerial Meeting of the Barents Euro-Arctic Council on the 26th of October. After having been forced to conduct large parts of our chairmanship online, we look very much forward to welcoming ministers as well as regional, indigenous and youth representatives of the member states to Tromsø. Let me conclude by thanking all the members of the Working Group on Transport, BEATA, on behalf of the chairmanship. Not only have you adjusted and found new ways to work together despite the restraints imposed by the pandemic, but you have also managed to stay very active and move the cooperation forward on important areas. The work on resting places for heavy trucks is an example of concrete results that showcases the value of the Barents cooperation for the people living in the region. Dear friends, I look forward to today's discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Gøril, very much for the welcoming words from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. My name is Paul Iversen. I've been the pleasure of chairing the BEATA steering committee for the last 2 years, and I will be today's moderator. The purpose of the meeting today is to exchange views on the development of the transport system in the Barents region and sharing reflections on the transport cooperation as well. It is 2 years since we did this on a high level in Umeå in September 2019. We look also forward to confirm the agreement on the declaration. The agenda today is quite simple. We will start with welcoming remarks also from the Barents Regional Council and continue with an opening speech from the Norwegian Ministry of Transport. We will after that leave the floor to intervention from Finland by the Minister of Transport and Communications, Mr. Timo Haraka, followed by Dmitry Zverev, State Secretary in the Minister of Transport representing the Russian Federation. State Secretary in the Swedish Ministry of Infrastructure, Malin Cederfelt Östberg, will also intervene. And then we will give the floor to representatives from the regions, from Finland, Norway, and Sweden. We will then have a short round from the Norwegian chair regarding the agreed declaration and thank all the parties for their active contribution and support. The meeting will end by a short concluding remarks from the Norwegian chair of the Barrens Council and the chair of the Barrens Regional Council. Västerbotten, the chair of the Barrens Regional Council, has also been very kind to give us a greeting from the governor, Ms. Helena Landmark Knutsson. I leave the floor to them.
Ministers, state secretaries, and Barents friends. It is a pleasure for me to be here with you today. My name is Helene Helmer Knutsson, and I'm the governor of Västerbotten and the chair of the Barents Regional Council. Interactions in our region and between our countries have been ongoing for centuries. It is often said that the dynamics between the regional and the national levels are what makes the Barents cooperation unique. I really would like to underline that the cooperation is unique. During the past decades, the region has developed a cross-border people-to-people cooperation that stands out in a global context. One of the main instruments to build upon this is the transport system. Västerbotten has, together with Norway, chaired the Barents cooperation for almost 2 years now, and Västerbotten has focused, among many other things, on green transports. Within the framework of the Barents Region Transport and Logistics Project, we have conducted a study on green transports in order to increase the understanding of green transport as a concept and how transport planning in the Barents region can support green transports. Talking about green, the north of Sweden is now facing green investments in a never-before-seen scale. Green investments are expected to attract about 100,000 people to Sweden's far north in the next 15 years. In the upcoming decades, 70 billion euros will be invested in a broad range of industrial branches located in Västerbotten and Norrbotten. The supply of green energy, in combination with a strong innovation system, has attracted ambitious companies to locate their production and development in the north of Sweden. Driving this growth are green industries like a battery factory in Skellefteå and a zero-carbon steel plant in Boden. How this affects the infrastructure, Norrbotten will tell us more about later in the agenda. I know that we also have large investments coming in other parts of the Barents region, and our region is getting more and more interesting in a global context. However, one of the main challenges for this development is investments in infrastructure, which is one of the most important key factors for the development of our region. Lack of transport infrastructure creates bottlenecks and hinders the development to the region. Improved transport infrastructure within the Barents region and to other regions, both east-west and north-south connections, would facilitate better access for our goods and services to the markets. It would also facilitate the development of local industry, as businesses cannot grow without sufficient road, rail, maritime and air connections. Those connections are also needed to enable people to meet more easily. This, in turn, would widen the local labor markets in the region and the common research areas between universities, reducing unemployment and helping companies to attract the required skills. Without any doubt, our region has a transport system that needs to be developed in all directions. I'm looking forward of today's discussion and how we can develop and strengthen transport cooperation within the Barents region and together develop our common transport system. Thank you.
Many thanks to Vesterbotten and Helena Landmark Knudsen. Since this is the day when the current government in Norway leaves the office and the new will take place, we have received this recorded message from the Transport Minister Knut Arild Hareide.
Dear colleagues and friends of the Barents Corporation, I apologize for not being able to join you at this important event. When you see this video, I'm no longer the Minister of Transport in Norway. Nevertheless, I would like to take the opportunity to say a few words about what this corporation has accomplished. The Barents Corporation is vital for youth, indigenous people, health and culture. It contributes to mutual understanding between the neighboring countries in the north, and the transport system makes all this happen. We are getting closer to a greener and more connected transport system. With even more collaboration, our common goals are within reach. I'm certain that my successor will continue along the lines we already have drawn. With our dear friends in Finland at the steering wheel, I know the future is in good hands. Thank you to everyone participating. I wish you all the best for the meeting.
Thank you very much to Minister Hareide. I am pleased to welcome in person Director General Fredrik Birkheim Arnesen from the Norwegian Ministry of Transport, who will hold the intervention on behalf of the chair of the Transport Corporation in Barents. Fredrik, the floor is yours.
Thank you, dear colleague Paul. Minister, State Secretaries, high-level representatives, friends of the Barents Corporation. On behalf of the Norwegian Ministry of Transport, I will start with an apology because this meeting was meant, as you understand, to be led by our Minister of Transport, Mr. Hareide. The election to the Parliament gave a new red-green majority. The current government, led by Erna Solberg, have resigned this week. The change will take place today as we speak. And although we regret this timing, we obviously consider holding the meeting as crucial, and I will do my best to present the Norwegian points of view. I will use the opportunity to summarize our efforts and, in the end, try to look ahead. We took over the responsibility for Beata after Sweden 2 years ago. Who could have known at that time what we had ahead and how hard the pandemic hit the very essence of the Barents cooperation? People-to-people contacts, the work for lowering the thresholds of the borders and the work for seamless flows of transport between the neighboring countries. We are not done with the pandemic at all. We will live with some of the consequences in the coming years. However, I'm pleased to note that we have come to a situation where the hard restrictions on people's everyday life and border crossings are being lifted. The restrictions on border crossings have been necessary yet harmful in many ways. But I'm confident that the traffic and the relations between the neighbors will resume. A direct consequence of the pandemic was the shift from traditional physical meetings to meetings on digital platforms. All the events and activities under our presidency have been carried out this way, including this. I hope the coming meetings under the Finnish presidency will be physical. We have lost something by keeping it digital, but we have also gained. One obvious thing is increased participation. More people have been able to attend to our webinars. So, when we return to normal, we must take with us the good experiences from this period and seek solutions that ensure broad participation from the entire Barents region as well as the capitals. Our intention when we took over was to build upon the good work the previous chairs had done with the updating of the joint Barents transport plan. It was important for us to allow to follow up some of the recommendations from the plan and try to solve some concrete issues. One of them is concerning the drivers of heavy goods vehicles on the many border crossings in the region. Under what conditions do they carry out their important work? Do we provide enough resting places, secure places for sleep and resting time with the necessary facilities? These were important issues to investigate. To follow up the Vision Zero, no fatalities or severe injuries in the road traffic, we must solve a number of issues. Among them, ensure the number and quality of the resting places for the drivers of heavy goods vehicles. We are therefore pleased with the report on 24-hour resting areas for lorry drivers presented before the summer break. The report is interesting read. I took note of the lack of facilities for the female lorry drivers. We have to offer all drivers better conditions on this area. My hope is that the development of these facilities can be enhanced and that the report has contributed to raise the attention to working conditions of one important profession in the transport sector. We are pleased with the participation and outcome of the 4 webinars on each transport mode we have held the last 12 months. Road transport in October last year, aviation in February, railway and logistics in April, and finally, sustainable shipping in the Arctic this very morning. The webinars try to cast light upon the current state of innovation and technology contributing to more sustainable transports, providing examples for learning and inspiration. I wish to express my appreciation to all speakers and participants from the 4 countries making these events possible. The declaration we are approving today is giving direction for the Barents Transport Corporation in the coming years. It contains a clear expectation to organize the work better, merging the working groups on national and regional level. In doing so, I am certain we will be able to use our resources more coordinated and better. The multilateral Barents Corporation is unique because it includes both levels of governance. Having the regions and capitals' joint perspective and mutual understanding, another on more effective sharing of information. It seems like the best performing working groups under the Barents Council are in fact joint groups embracing the regional and national level. The other point referring to the declaration is extremely important. It expresses our joint ambitions to reduce the CO2 emissions from the transport sector according to the Paris Agreement and US development goals. I am confident that the stakeholders in the Transport Corporation will try to develop promising pilot and demonstration projects, inspire each other by presenting best practices and disseminate knowledge. Innovation is a key word in this context. By developing smarter ways of transporting goods and people, we will be able to improve the performance of the transport system. By uptake of new technologies, electrification of the transport where possible, supporting low and zero emission solutions for all transport modes, we will be able to make major improvements. We have made substantial progress in some areas. The ongoing electrification of the private car fleet in Norway and the electrification of the many ferries crossings in our fjords are examples we like to share with others. Furthermore, development of information systems making transport more efficient are also important elements of needed measures to fulfill the objectives. Every transport mode is called upon to decarbonize. The challenges are the same, but the way forward, the solutions and timeline differs greatly between the transport modes. Being responsible for aviation as well as the Barents cooperation in the Norwegian Ministry of Transport, I'd like to say a few words about aviation. The Norwegian society cannot function without aviation. Referring to the webinar we held in February this year, we got a good picture of the huge development and demand for fossil-free aviation. And just to remind you of our main message from the webinar on aviation. 1. The Barents region is totally dependent on aviation. Greenhouse gas emissions must be mitigated. Sustainable aviation fuels are already available. Electrified passenger aircraft will become reality, and we have to push the development forward. Hydrogen is part of the solution. And finally, collaboration is key. I will end my speech expressing our gratitude to all participation and support during our presidency. It's due to your attention and interest we have been encouraged to do our best in chairing this important platform for collaboration. I am confident that Finland will bring the transport cooperation in Barents further and follow up the ambitions to develop the transport system between our 4 countries to be sustainable and well connected. I thank you all for your attention.
Thank you very much, Fredrik. And it is then a pleasure to give the floor to the incoming chair of Beata, Minister Timo Harakka, Finnish Minister of Transport. And Minister, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Chairman, good afternoon, everybody. First of all, I wish to thank Norway for its leadership over the past 2 years. I appreciate Norway's efforts to further develop cooperation in the Barents Euro-Arctic region, especially in the transport sector. The meetings, the webinars and studies you have organized have been instrumental in taking our joint agenda forward. I heard that even today you had your last productive webinar on sustainable shipping in the Arctic. My esteemed ex-colleague, and may I say my good friend, Knut Arild made it very clear that Barents cooperation is a priority for Norway, as is also the case for Finland. I would like to highlight 2 well-known major trends that no one can ignore and that very much affect the Barents region and its transport and logistics sector. The first one is, of course, climate change. It has a powerful impact on all areas of society, including all modes of transport. This applies not only to our activities today, but also how we plan for tomorrow. In my view, this factor must be a part of all our considerations in the region and at the national levels. The warming climate highlights the need for a major change towards decarbonization. This is also connected to the second great trend I wish to highlight, namely digitalization and automation. The way I see it, it is impossible to imagine us achieving our climate goals without digitalization and the application of big data. The transport and logistics sectors play a key role in bringing about this transformation, and in road transport, for example, electronic freight transport information and electronic transport permits are helping us on our way to fully digital logistics. What is more, digitalization and automation can make transport safer and more efficient. Some examples of this include route planning and optimization, real-time traffic management, and creating efficiency in logistics through data sharing. As technologies evolve and the markets become more mature, we need to adapt automation so that we can reap its benefits. Promoting economic growth and safeguarding the environment do fit into the same equation, also in transport and logistics. The economic landscape in the Barents region is changing and new opportunities are emerging. New solutions are being developed for rail and road transport, paving the way to increased efficiency and safety. Shipping is increasing, businesses are seeking out new markets. New concepts, such as mobility as a service, are being put into practice. Now we must focus on building the future in a sustainable way. When it comes to Barents cooperation, Finland considers it important to look into how we can make the mobility sector greener and smarter. The COVID-19 pandemic has shown us the need and also given us the opportunities to adjust the ways we think and work. The digital leap had become a reality for many of us. If we want to continue on this path, cooperation is vital. We will all need to work even more closely together in the regions and member states to highlight not only the special circumstances of the Barents Euro-Arctic region, but also the potential that lies in the Barents Euro-Arctic transport area and its cross-border activities. To this end, it would be valuable to explore new structures for cooperation between the national and regional levels, as agreed in the joint declaration today. With these thoughts in mind, Finland is drafting a work plan for the next 2 years. We will also take further the recommendations of the joint Barents Transport Plan and look into the possibilities to continue cooperation with the Northern Dimension Partnership on transport and logistics. To sum up, the future development of the Barents Euro-Arctic region depends on sustainable, green and smart transport and logistics. Well-functioning infrastructure is a must for people to prosper in the region. And this is a strong argument for all the members of the Barents family, regions and countries alike, to work closely together and move our agenda forward. It is important to note that everything we have achieved in the Barents region is thanks to close cooperation. With this in mind, I would once again like to thank the Norwegian leadership and the countries and regions behind this table, or would I rather say on this screen. I will count on continued support from all of you during Finland's forthcoming presidency in the Barents Euro-Arctic transport area. Thank you very much. Kiitos, tack.
Thank you very much, Minister. We look really forward to the work together with Finland under your leadership in the Beata. The Russian Federation is today represented by State Secretary, Deputy Minister Dmitry Zverev. State Secretary, the floor is yours.
Добрый день, уважаемые коллеги. Приветствует Министерство транспорта Российской Федерации. Дмитрий Станиславович Зверев находится в парламенте, не успевает вернуться сейчас к выступлению. От его лица выступлю я, исполняющий обязанности директора Департамента международного сотрудничества Дмитрий Шиян. Дамы и господа, двухгодичное председательство Норвегии в Beata подходит к концу, и прежде всего хотели бы поблагодарить Норвегию за продемонстрированный гибкий подход в рамках ограничений, вызванных COVID-19. Такой подход позволил сохранить высокий темп и высокую эффективность работы организации в течение этого времени. Мы приветствуем финское председательство и надеемся на сохранение и дальнейшее наращивание соответствующего темпа. Тематические семинары, которые проводились по различным видам транспорта с участием ведущих специалистов разных стран Beata, они охарактеризовались конструктивным диалогом и способствовали обмену информацией и более продуктивному взаимопониманию представителей разных стран. Российская Федерация последовательно предпринимает усилия по развитию Арктики, развитию Северного морского пути, Мурманского транспортного узла, как крупнейшего логистического центра. В 2020 году грузооборот по Северному морскому пути составил почти 33 миллиона тонн. В этом году рост продолжается, и по объему транзитных грузок мы видим, что груз вырос почти на 1,4 раза. Реконструирован морской грузопассажирский многосторонний пункт пропуска в морском порту Мурманск. Реализуется программа мероприятий по строительству ледокольного флота, многофункциональных аварийных спасательных судов ледового класса, гидрографических и лоцмейстерских судов ледового класса. Реализация таких мер способствует достижению поставленной президентом Российской Федерации цели по увеличению грузопотока по Севморпути до 80 миллионов тонн к 2024 году. В Российской Федерации широко реализуется проект «Цифровая трансформация» по расширению применения цифровых технологий при оказании транспортно-логистических услуг. Он направлен на снижение затрат, роста средней скорости осуществления перевозок, повышение мобильности населения, уменьшение аварийности на дорогах. Прорывной инициативой является внедрение высокоавтоматизированных и беспилотных транспортных средств на различных видах транспорта. Так, полностью автономный танкер Михаил Ульянов уже сегодня курсирует между портом Мурманск и платформой Приразломная. Автоматическое и дистанционное управление судами является одной из приоритетных тем в мире направления развития технологий водного транспорта. Его результатом должно стать существенное повышение безопасности и эффективности судоходства. Российская Федерация является первой страной, которая не только создала, но и начинает широкое практическое применение технологий автономного судовождения и создает соответствующую нормативно-правовую базу. Исходим из того, что в этом году в Российской Федерации одновременно завершается масштабный пилотный проект по автономной навигации в реальных условиях и начинается национальный эксперимент по опытной эксплуатации автономных судов под российским флагом. Отмечаем, что в рамках пилотного проекта технология автоматического и дистанционного управления апробируется на 3 судах в условиях реальной коммерческой эксплуатации в различных регионах страны, в том числе в Арктике, в Баренцевом море. Мы предлагаем рассмотреть возможность государствам-участникам БИАТа организации совместного международного пилотного проекта по автономному судовождению в Арктике. Одним из приоритетов транспортной политики России является развитие дорожного движения. В настоящее время проводятся масштабные работы по реализации национального проекта «Безопасные и качественные дороги» в 84 городах, 84 регионах и 105 агломерациях, в том числе на территории БИАТа. В рамках указанного проекта в рассматриваемом регионе в 2020 году было отремонтировано более 100 километров федеральных дорог, в 2022 году будет отремонтировано более 150 километров федеральных автодорог и дополнительно построено более 60 километров новых участков. В период с 2021 по 2024 годы предусмотрено строительство и реконструкция 5 участков федеральных автодорог в Архангельской, Мурманской областях и в Республике Карелия. В рамках реализации национального проекта «Безопасные и качественные автомобильные дороги» в ближайшие 3 года планируется привести к нормативу более 5000 километров региональных дорог на территории Баренцевых регионов. В 2021 году в российских регионах суммарно приведут в нормативное состояние 1500 километров дорог, которые ведут к туристическим объектам для повышения доступности таких мест для массового туризма. После завершения строительства подъездной дороги, подъезда с федеральной трассы Кола к Онежскому озеру повысится доступность всемирно известного музея на острове Кижи для массового потока. Стоит отметить, что в период норвежского председательства мы совместно с иными государствами БИАТа участвовали в деятельности экспертной группы по определению мест для круглосуточных зон отдыха для водителей при осуществлении трансграничных маршрутов Баренцевого региона. Высоко оцениваем данную инициативу, ее результаты и исходим из того, что стоило бы продолжить ее внедрение и применение. В Российской Федерации вопросы негативного воздействия на окружающую среду и противодействия изменениям климата представляют серьезную значимость. В соответствии с принятыми указами президента, Россия взяла на себя обязательство сократить выбросы парниковых газов к 2030 году до 70% от уровня 90-го года. Уже сейчас эти выбросы сократились в 2 раза с 3,5 миллиардов тонн эквивалента СО2 до 1,6 миллиарда тонн. Рассмотрение более дальних горизонтов до 2050 года предполагает более амбициозные задачи по сокращению выбросов. В этой связи ведется разработка нескольких национальных документов. Ведется разработка стратегии социально-экономического развития Российской Федерации с низким уровнем выброса парниковых газов до 2050 года. В соответствии с утвержденной концепцией развития и производства электрического транспорта, доля производимых электромобилей к 2030 году будет составлять не менее 10% от общего объема производства транспортных средств в России. И эксплуатация предусмотрена не менее 72 тысяч зарядных станций. Мы исходим из того, что и иные виды топлива, такие как водородное, метановодородное топливо, могут стать в перспективе одним из основных видов моторного топлива. На правительственном уровне утверждена концепция развития водородной энергетики в Российской Федерации, которая предусматривает внедрение автомобильного и железнодорожного транспорта на водородном топливе, а также создание инфраструктуры для их заправки. Министерство транспорта Российской Федерации оказывает содействие регионам в обновлении парка городского транспорта на газомоторном топливе и электроэнергии на основе лизинга со скидкой до 60%. К 2030 году планируем заменить более 30 тысяч единиц подвижного состава общественного транспорта во всех городских агломерациях. На железнодорожном транспорте снижение объемов выбросов парниковых газов связано с внедрением новых энергосберегающих технологий, а также электрификацией линий. В России сегодня электрифицирована половина сети железных дорог. Уже сейчас реализуются региональные проекты по использованию газопроводов и газотепловозов в создании заправочных сетей СПГ. К 2030 году планируется замещение природным газом 25% дизельного топлива, которое используется локомотивами. В отношении воздушного, в отношении морского транспорта последовательно проводим работу по внедрению норм, выработанных конвенциями ИМО и стандартами, рекомендуемой практикой ИКАО. Приоритетными мерами по снижению углеродоемкости в авиационной сфере видим замену и обновление воздушного парка судов. До 2025 года предполагается введение 879 воздушных судов. Применение передовых эксплуатационных процедур, совершенствование управления организацией воздушного движения, которые в совокупности могут обеспечить улучшение показателей топливной эффективности примерно на 2% в год в перспективе до 2050 года. В морских портах планируем создать 13 бункеровочных баз сжиженного природного газа к 2024 году и 30 баз к 2030 году. Рассматриваем также возможность использования водорода в качестве судового топлива. Нет сомнений, что цифровые технологии и низкоуглеродные решения для транспорта становятся важнейшим трендом мировой транспортной системы и должны активно использоваться на транспортных маршрутах, в том числе в регионах СБЕР. Поэтому подчеркну важность обмена передовым опытом и дальнейшей работы по внедрению и использованию новых технологий в области транспорта и логистики. Благодарю представителей Норвегии и руководящего совета БЕАТа за подготовку итоговой декларации, являющейся нашей общей основой взаимодействия на следующий двухлетний период. Спасибо большое за внимание.
Thank you very much for your intervention. It is then a pleasure to give the floor to Sweden, represented by State Secretary Ms. Malin Cederfelt Östberg. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, everybody. First of all, I would like to thank for a very interesting seminar this morning on sustainable shipping in the Arctic. This was an important opportunity for us to share our experiences. The most pressing challenge we have today is tackling climate change in order to achieve the goals of the UN 2030 Agenda as well as the Paris Agreement. In the Barents region, these challenges are even bigger, since the region is warming at more than twice the rate of the global average. This will severely affect the ecosystems, societies and communities, including livelihood of indigenous people. As started in the Umeå Declaration, we need to properly and resolutely address climate change. A change for long-term sustainable transport solutions is necessary for making the Barents region an even better place for people to live and businesses to grow. Cooperation is the key. The Barents Euro-Arctic cooperation plays a significant role as a platform for strengthening mutual trust and stability, respecting human rights, gender equality, and promoting sustainable development in accordance with the UN 2030 Agenda. The key element is the close interaction between the national, regional, and local level. Another key element is dialogue with the inhabitants, in particular indigenous people. We need to continue working together to increase prosperity and connectivity. I think the proposed simplification of the Barents cooperation, merging the national and regional level, is an important step. Our declaration from this meeting today will give us guidelines for further work. I'm especially happy that we agreed on underlining sustainability and climate change in the declaration. I also believe it is important to continue working with the hurdles identified in the draft Joint Barents Transport Plan. The draft plan is valuable independent input to the planning process for governments, authorities, regions, and other stakeholders. Most of all, it is a unique platform for continued dialogue among concerned stakeholders. Our ambition is for Sweden to become the world's first fossil-free welfare country. We are convinced that the climate-neutral economy is a competitive one. To succeed, we need to reduce the transport system carbon footprint. I would like to mention some initiatives that the Swedish government has taken. In the infrastructure bill presented to the Parliament in April this year, the Swedish government proposed the largest economic framework ever for transport infrastructure measures. In total, the framework amounts to 876 billion Swedish crowns for a period of 2022 to 2023. This means over 85 billion euro over the coming 12 years. A large part of this investment is in railway, both in increased maintenance and in new railway, in order to promote a shift to rail and sustainable transport. We are continuing the expansion of railway in the northern part of Sweden. The planning and completion of Norrbotniabanan is intensified. This will be very important for the region, which is seeing intense economic activity. For example, through what is set to become Europe's biggest battery factory, Northvolt, and Hybrid, a project aimed at producing the world's first fossil-free steel. Another question important for the region is electrification. In order to increase the pace of electrification, the Swedish government has, only to give you one example, created the Commission of Electrification with representatives from business, academia, and regional public authorities. As a result, more than 250 actors have committed to concrete investments and actions to accelerate the adoption of electric trucks in the regional freight. We have also established favorable conditions to support deployment of charging infrastructure. This includes an aid scheme for charging points in areas where the market is not fully developed. Finally, I would like to thank the Norwegian Chairmanship. You have managed to make important progress in our cooperation by putting the climate change on the agenda. You have also succeeded in revitalizing the Barents Transport Cooperation through digital seminars which allow a broader participation. Another accomplishment is acknowledging gender inequality in the project on development and implementation of 24 hours rest area along border crossing roads in the Barents region. So thank you very much once again, and my warmest welcome to Finland as the new chair. Thank you.
Thank you so much, State Secretary. As you have already pointed out, this is a cooperation between national and regional level, and I'm therefore very happy to now give the floor for the interventions from the regions. Pentti Mallinen, the regional mayor of Kainuu, will be the first representatives coming here. Mr. Mallinen, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon. I would like to share some slides also. Is it okay? Yes, Barents Regional Council has adopted the Barents program for 2023. The Barents program is a framework for the interregional Barents cooperation. The overall objective of the Barents program is to generate social and economic growth through knowledge-driven economy and the sustainable development of regions' natural and human resources. The prioritized 4 areas of the program period include infrastructure, transport, and communication, of course. The regional working group of transport and logistics under the Kainuu chairmanship has been active. By running several joint projects, created a unique base of knowledge on the situation and changes and challenges of the transport, logistics, and accessibility of the Barents area. One of the first activities of the working group has been the Barents Freeway project, aimed at preparing a common regional transport plan for Barents region. The work is based on studies made during the project and national strategies. It then led to the joint Barents transport plan that has been made in close cooperation with Beata and Northern Dimension Partnership on Transport and Logistics. As a part of national and cross-border transport systems, accessibility for all Barents regions shall be developed to be sustainable, inclusive, and efficient. But keeping in mind the special circumstances with long distances, sparse population, but at the same time, the importance of vast regional local resources, industry, and tourism. The regions need good external links to world markets. To achieve this, it is important to promote all the modes of transportation and traffic. And furthermore, transport modes are needed to link closely together. At the moment, regions and states are facing the challenges already mentioned, the recovering after the COVID-19 pandemic and global challenge of reduced CO2 emissions, and succeed with the green transition with a practical and fair way. Under the umbrella of working group, Regional Council is still leading 2 projects of Barents Regional Transport and Logistics, and another program Northern Axis Barents Link, which both are funded by the CBC Colarctic program. The objective of the first project is to put the state-level multilateral joint strategy document, Joint Barents Transport Plan, in practice on the regional level. The second project aims to identify the main bottlenecks of the East-West transport corridor and contribute to its harmonization. I understand these projects as valuable start for looking Barents region from the point of future. And the first case study is already seen on our project web pages. As an example of the fact that transition towards green transport is already on our regions, I am showing now how our region Kainuu has got a new opportunity to support transformation by producing high-value minerals needed in the electric car batteries. Electrification and other innovative technologies are the key role in stimulating the environmentally friendly transition. In addition, there is a need for intelligent transport systems and charging infrastructure and gas states network in the whole Barents area. Dear Barents friends, I hope that ongoing Barents transport cooperation will be strengthened to meet the new challenges in fruitful cooperation between the states and the regions. I welcome the new Barents financial instruments to stimulate the cooperation in the next years. I still emphasize the possibilities for our cooperation created by EU part-funded cross-border programs, Colarctic and Karelia, and also more close dialogue with EU bodies. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Malinen. We will now go to the Nordland County Council, and here we do have a message from Bent Joachim Bensen, Executive of Transport and Infrastructure in the Nordland County Council. Mr. Bensen, the floor is yours.
Norwegian export is depending on the Arctic transport corridors. Transport in Nordland and Northern Norway is complicated. Everything is connected to and interdependent on each other. This becomes all the clearer when, for example, we want to move more goods from road transportation over to maritime and railway networks. Therefore, new route structures must be built up. This is reliant on business actors, transport companies, and public authorities working closely together. In Norway, we have begun a concept selection analysis for Northern Norway. In this lies a review regarding the extension of Northern Norway's railway lines, and with it, the prospect of new railway construction in the north, through what is a very challenging topographical landscape. While this work is being carried out, we must also press for today's railway lines, Nordlandsbanen and Ofotbanen, to be upgraded and expanded. The potential of our existing railway lines is enormous. However, for this to be realized, double tracks will be required on the Ofotbanen railway line, and longer crossing tracks on Nordlandsbanen are necessary. In addition, the Nordlandsbanen is currently serviced by diesel locomotives. As such, efforts to make our trains emission-free must be accelerated. This is important because Norwegian suppliers and the market are increasingly demanding more and more zero-emission products. As I mentioned at the start of my speech, transport in Northern Norway is very complex. Therefore, I will limit my speech to 3 themes. First of all, from the coast to the market. Nordland is a nationally important business county and is one of the largest exporting counties in Norway. The seafood industry, the power processing industry, and the mineral industry are some areas in which central authorities have wanted increased investments. Every 10th farm-grown salmon in the world comes from Nordland. A 5-fold increase in the seafood industry in the years to come will therefore be of great importance and is a transport policy challenge that must already be solved now. Good transport systems are an important contributor towards maintaining a competitive business environment. Northern Norway lies far away from the important markets and has great distances and cost disadvantages that must be reduced. It will be crucial to lessen the distance from the coast to the market. Most of the salmon that is transported out to the world starts the long journey with a ferry trip and on county roads, because several of the slaughterhouses lie on islands along the coast of Nordland. Second, the green shift. Nordland is now taking a leading role in the green shift at the national level. With a background in a solid industrial environment, industrial competence, surplus power generation, access to suitable land, and access to raw materials, there are many industrial projects on the way. Battery production, fuel cells, hydrogen, and biogas. What all these projects have in common is that they will push Northern Norway's logistical capacity. It is of great importance to me that the arrangements are being made for increased goods transfer from roads to rail and sea. The need for increased capacity on the Ofotbanen and Nordlandsbanen has already been mentioned. This must also be seen in parallel connection with the transition to green sea transport. While transport by sea emits large amounts of greenhouse gases, this means that the greatest potential to reach national and international climate targets lies here. Norway has the opportunity to take the lead in the work for an international green merchant fleet, based on new technologies often developed in Norway. Norwegian authorities are concerned about green shipping. As a result of this, several other ports are currently developing charging infrastructure for shipping. An example of this is Smart Narvik, a project where one sees, among other things, new energy solutions and synergies between several modes of transport. In addition, Norwegian Public Roads Administration will, in 2025, operate the ferries between Bodø and Lofoten with hydrogen. And finally, future possibilities. We face both requirements, goals, and expectations in a time where sustainability, technology, and innovation are important concepts. The need for infrastructure will grow in the next decade, but at the same time, budgets will be tighter. One of the most important drivers will be the requirements of the green shift, be it the decreasing of CO2 emissions or the consumer's clearer demands to producers, carriers, and suppliers. The Trans-European Transport Network, or TENT, works to put in place effective corridors for the transportation of goods and passengers between railways, roads, and ports. We are of the opinion that the long-term and systematic work of this type can give very good results. We must remove obstacles and bottlenecks and technical barriers in our transport systems. This in turn will help strengthen social, economic, and territorial cohesion in Europe. The strategy behind the development of the TNT network reflects many of the objectives in our own regional infrastructure plans. The mapping of freight flows in Northern Norway has shown that there is a large need for investment in infrastructure to solve logistical challenges. International plans must be linked with the regional plans. Our countries must cooperate. And that is precisely why it is so important to coordinate as we do here today. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Mr. Benson, for your speech. The next speaker is Bjørn Inge Bo, Chair of the County Council Government of Troms and Finnmark. And I'm happy to leave the floor to you, Mr. Mo.
First, I would like to thank the BEAC Chairmanship for the invitation and opportunity to speak today. Reliable transport solutions are of importance for the development of our societies and economic growth in the Barents region. From a Norwegian perspective, the transportation of goods and particularly fish depends greatly on the road and rail networks in our neighboring countries and the EU. The Barents cooperation on transport and logistics is an important area for the development of new knowledge and common solutions in the High North. Our ambitions and priorities in the transportation sector follow two main principles: regional responsibility and political influence on the national and international level. We have outlined this is our coast-to-market strategy, where we focus on complete corridors all the way from small cities and villages along the coast in the northern Norway and out to the European markets. Sustainable development in the sector depends both on the priorities and financing at the regional and national level in Norway and in our neighboring countries. The joint Barents Transport Plan pioneered and made it possible for us to identify collective challenges and priorities in the region. The cooperation has also contributed to the restoration of the road between Kirkenes and Murmansk, improvements on E45 to Alta, and reconstruction measures on the road between Neiden and Kamanen. Roads and areas for testing new technology in Skibotn, Månjo, Buktamo and Tøre are other valuable Barents projects. When it comes to future development, we are focusing on the corridors running to the Finnish border, Hammerfest, Alta and Tromsø, Skibotn. In order to secure safer and more environmentally friendly transports, we also consider it important that the Tnt railroad network is extended to Troms and Finnmark. The reduction of climate gas emissions is a collective challenge in the Barents region. Also, if cross-border transports are to use low emissions solutions, it is necessary that we have the same type of charging systems or fuel alternatives for long-distance transport. Common challenges in the transportation sector are long planning time for new projects, and the fact that financing often depends on national priorities. It is important to have a varied set of ambitions that include both smaller short-term objectives and long-term larger-scale projects. The Norwegian chairmanship has, among others, focused on developing 24-hour rest stop areas, which have been tested through a local pilot project at the regional level. In our view, it is important to continue the work with 24-hour rest stop areas to develop new technology and low-emission solutions. We should also focus on maintaining a high rate of cross-border winter regularity and testing battery electric transports in longer distance. Technology and solutions that work in the harsh conditions of the Barents region are likely to work in the rest of the world too. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Bjørn Inge, for sharing your perspectives. Before we go to the Swedish regions, we will return to Finland, to Jaakko Ylilampa, Director General for the Center for Economic Development, Transport and the Environment for Lapland. So Jaakko, I am pleased you are here with us and the floor is yours. Jaakko, we are not hearing you, so can you try to come closer to the microphone, perhaps? It is not possible to hear, actually. We are trying to solve our issue here.
Your volume is very low, so perhaps you can change the microphone output or try connecting with a different microphone, because
Yes.
we can hear you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's start again.
Yes.
Good. Thank you very much.
Loud and clear now.
Yes, thank you very much for being invited to this meeting. I am the Director General of Lapland ELY Center, responsible for the transport and infrastructure of Lapland in Finland. And we are living very interesting times due to COVID-19 and everything. And this has quite an impact, at least so far, on, for example, net immigration of Lapland and presumably in other countries and other counties in Finland as well. We know that tourism has been hit very hard by COVID-19, but it is recovering quite quickly. There's lots of investments in tourism sector in Lapland going on. There's also a huge investment in Kemi into the biofactory, which will be about 1.6 billion euros, and the factory will use 7.5 million cubic meters of timber annually. This is one of the major investments in Lapland, and this is actually going on right now. There's also been a CEF statute approved by the European Union. It means the Tnt transport corridor, Scandinavian Mediterranean and Baltic North Sea corridors. Those will be extended on both sides of the Gulf of Bothnia, Baltic North Sea all the way to Luleå from the Finnish side, and Scandinavian Mediterranean from the Swedish side all the way to Oulu. So that's very big news for the Barents area, and there's also a connection towards Narvik as well. We are fully aware of the business and investment plans in northern Sweden, in northern Norway, in Russia, and of course we need to follow them closely. Lapland, as the most international county in Finland, is very much keen on what sort of impacts on transport sector, especially these investments, will give. We also need to have focus on the development of the Northeast maritime route, the development of ports of Murmansk, Kirkenes and Narvik, also as well as Gulf of Bothnia ports, especially Kemi, Oulu, Luleå. And we also need to have focus on the overall development in the Barents and the Arctic area. And I believe that in the forthcoming presidency of Finland, we will also have a look at electrifying traffic and also alternative fuels. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jaakko, for your intervention. The Swedish regional intervention will be taken by Jimmy Bystedt, advisor of transport and infrastructure from Norrbotten. And Jimmy, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Dear Barents friends, first of all, I would like to send greetings from our governor, Lotta Finstorp. She's sorry that she could not participate today. And as the governor of Västerbotten earlier said, I will, with some slides, give you a brief insight into what is going on in northern Sweden. And that clearly shows the needs we have talked about today regarding sustainable, safe, and efficient transports. Now I will share the screen. Do you see it now?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Do you want me to share it?
Yeah, you can do. I can tell you when you change the slides. It's okay. And the development in the northern Sweden has not, you can change slides. The development in northern Sweden has not gone unnoticed outside of our borders. The president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, recently highlighted the Northern Europe as a good example of the rapid green transition in industry. And that's exactly what is happening in northern Sweden right now. The huge investment today, known investment today, is about 107 billion euros, and where most of it will take place in the counties of Norrbotten and Västerbotten. And for those of you like me having problem to understand such big numbers, you can start counting now, and it will take about 125 years to count to only 0.1 billion euro. And that's if you count day and night. You can change slides. That was about the 107, so take the next one too. Three of the biggest investments in the green transition is the world's first two fossil-free steel plants, HYBRIT and H2 Green Steel. And then you have the Northvolt, the largest battery factory in Europe. This will, of course, create new transport flows and new transport routes, not at least within the mineral belt from Narvik to Luleå and further east and south, of course. You can also see a clear battery belt between Norway, Sweden, and Finland. This will mean major challenges for the transport infrastructure to take care of not only the goods, but contractors, consultants, and workers. Let's change slides. We also know that the forecasted increase of transport was very big even before the massive investment plans was known. And the trade with the Eastern Europe has increased sharply over the past 10 years, far more in percentage terms than with Western Europe, and that's including the United States. So the challenges for the transport system is big. But as Mr. Ylönen said before, there are also good news regarding the infrastructure. For example, the EU's transport corridor, Scandinavian Mediterranean on the North Sea Baltic corridor, has been extended on each side of the Botnian Gulf from our capitals. And that is an important step in the work of connecting all parts of Europe and further east to create a more sustainable transport system. Also, the Swedish government recently announced that Sweden have to speed up the planning and the construction process regarding infrastructure project in the northern Sweden. And for me, that's example, the North Botnian line and double track between Luleå and Boden. And the last slide. As I have told you, and as you understand, the transitions toward a green economy is happening exactly now when we speak. But we also need those investments in green infrastructure. And in that sense, this declaration of today and the cooperation in the Barrens region is very important. Because who wants to drive fossil-free steel with fossil fuel trucks? Thanks for the words.
Thank you very much, Jimmy, for your very informative presentation. We have now come to the intervention from the Russian regions, and I am very pleased to give the floor to Mr. Artem Alexandrovich Grishin, who is Minister of Transport and Roads of the Murmansk region. Mr. Grishin, the floor is yours.
Уважаемые коллеги, рад всех приветствовать. Вкратце расскажу про транспорт в Мурманской области. Всем понятно, что 2020 год, год пандемийный, достаточно сложный был для Мурманской области также, но хочу отметить, что Мурманская область справилась с основным потоком пандемии и в 2020 году полностью обеспечено бесперебойное функционирование всех видов транспорта. Напомню, что в Мурманской области функционирует как автомобильный транспорт, так и железнодорожный, морской и авиационный. Хочу отметить, что в 2020 году было принято решение на уровне региона передать полномочия по транспортному обслуживанию населения, соответственно, на региональный уровень. Это позволило нашим перевозчикам в непростой год, соответственно, работать полноценно, функционировать и, соответственно, обслуживать наше население на маршрутах общественного транспорта. Хочу отметить, что ранее существовало международное автобусное сообщение с сопредельными государствами, это Финляндия и Норвегия. Так у нас, к сожалению, с 2014 года прекращено движение Кандалакша-Кемijärvi, Финляндия. С 2019 году прекращено в связи с пандемией автобусное сообщение Мурманск-Ивала-Ровaniemi. И уже в 2020 году, к сожалению, в связи с пандемией также прекращено движение Мурманск-Киркенес, аэропорт Киркенес. Это что касается автомобильного транспорта. При этом хочу отметить, что в Мурманской области достаточно внимания уделяется сфере экологии на транспорте. Мы в прошлом году приняли региональный закон по освобождению от уплаты транспортного налога электротранспорта. Соответственно, этим решением мы надеемся стимулировать появление электромобилей в Мурманской области. При этом достаточно большие инвестиции Мурманск вкладывает в развитие общественного транспорта. У нас обновляется парк общественного транспорта, и мы тем самым повышаем наш экологический уровень с Евро-4 на Евро-5 достаточно большими темпами. У нас прирост в среднем плюс 15% к прошлому году. Хочу отметить также ориентир Мурманской области в цифровизации своих сервисов. У нас в этом году работала передвижная лаборатория нашего центрального научного университета Росдор-НИИ. Соответственно, в данный момент мы делаем уже цифровой двойник той инфраструктуры, которая есть в Мурманской области по дорогам. У нас активно работают, функционируют два аэропорта. Это аэропорт Хибины, расположенный в центре Кольского полуострова, а также аэропорт Мурманск. При этом пассажиропоток, к сожалению, упал порядка на 20% в прошлом году, опять же из-за пандемии, но за счет этого года и снятия многих ограничений в субъектах Российской Федерации этот пассажиропоток растет. Мы надеемся, что к концу года мы выйдем ориентировочно на более чем 1 миллион пассажиров в аэропорту. И при этом уже буквально 2 недели назад у нас было открыто международное авиасообщение. У нас из Мурманска стали летать самолеты в Египет, в Шарм-эль-Шейх. Соответственно, наши жители Мурманской области имеют теперь беспересадочный маршрут, соответственно, с южными регионами. В целом у нас развивается также портовые мощности, у нас активно развивается Мурманский транспортный узел и те инвестиционные проекты, которые строятся на западном берегу Кольского залива. Во многом это благодаря появлению территории опережающего развития Мурманск, столицы Арктики. И, соответственно, мы ожидаем, что в ближайшие несколько лет у нас будет бурный рост по движению грузов в сторону Северного морского пути. Также хочу отметить, что в этом году реализован грант-контракт по программе «Коларктик». В этом году мы завершили ремонт крайних 10 километров пути нашей автомобильной дороги Лота, которая ведет на границу с Финляндией. И это помимо того, что в субъекте в нашем Российской Федерации, Мурманской области, активно ведется программа по ремонту дорожной сети в рамках нацпроекта «Безопасные качественные дороги». В целом, коллеги, доклад закончен, готов ответить на все вопросы. Спасибо.
Thank you very much, Mr. Grishin, for your intervention, casting light upon the transport development in Murmansk region. The Norwegian chair wants to take the floor regarding the agreed declaration from this meeting. And Fredrik, I leave the floor to you.
Thank you. Thank you all for your valuable points of view. I am certain that the incoming chair will take into consideration your good inputs. We have carried out the process in order to agree on a declaration from this meeting, including national and regional levels, making sure we have a representative document giving directions for the Barents Transport Corporation in the coming years. We are pleased to note the agreement on the declaration, and the Norwegian chair will thank you all for the active and constructive work you have led down. It is now Finland who will take the lead and will develop our cooperation the next 2 years. On behalf of the Norwegian Ministry of Transport, I'd like to say thank you so much for your interest and support you have shown during the special period we have behind us.
Thank you very much, Fredrik. I will now give the floor to the Norwegian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Gøril Johansen, for some concluding remarks on behalf of the chair of the Barrens Council. Gøril, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Paul. Please, on behalf of the chairmanship, let me thank all speakers for today's interesting interventions. I think it's clear that we are connected through more than 30 years of friendship and ties across borders, but we also need roads, railways, and sea routes and flights. Let me also thank Västerbotten for the close cooperation. We now have one event left, which is the Forest Forum that takes place on the 20th and 21st, as well as the Knowledge Meeting on the 18th of October before the Ministerial Meeting in Tromsø the 26th of October. So we have a quite busy end to our chairmanship. So from me, thank you very much, and we look forward to cooperating further.
Thank you, Gøril. And I will now give the floor for the last intervention from our meeting. So the chair of the Regional Barrens Council, Västerbotten, will end the meeting with some concluding remarks, and I will leave now the floor to Mikael. I'm happy to have you here. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Paul. I would like to start by thanking the Norwegian chair of Beata for a well-conducted chairmanship under these extraordinary circumstances that we have had. I also would like to welcome Finland as the incoming chair, and I keep my fingers crossed that we will be able to meet physically as soon as possible. Since the foundation of the Barents Cooperation, transport has been a vital part of the Barents Cooperation, and the close interaction between the national and the regional level are fundamental elements. And the seminar of today shows the interactions that we have between the national and the local level is working very well. We have heard that we have joint challenges ahead of us, such as reducing the long distances to the markets, the need for electrification, developing the access of alternative fuels, reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, moving towards the green economy, etc., etc. There's a lot of interesting issues going on that we have in front of us. And I'm positive that the meeting of today will lead to continue the cooperation, because it's clear that we have a lot of things to learn from each other, and as several speakers of today has touched upon, transport issues is of utter importance. So I thank you all for an interesting day, and now back to you, Paul.
Thank you very much, Mikael, for your words. And I will also like to thank all the speakers for very inspiring and informative interventions. Wrapping up the meeting, I would like to use the opportunity to thank the interpreters and Mevin for organizing the technical part of the meeting. I look really forward to seeing you again in person and under the Finnish chairmanship. Until then, I wish you a very pleasant day. Thank you.